I got a lot of views. I got a lot of people looked at it, and a couple of queries. Now, Annette McKenzie Bailey was the name of a lady, asked the question, and she reiterated the establishment of politicians and everything. And if they go outside of this country and register and then come in here and expect to operate here, it's not the job of an international court to interfere in this country, considering Clause 8, which says we are a self governing colony of England. In other words, the only law exterior to this country can be applied in this country is imperial law from the imperial parliament, which is the supreme parliament above us, according to our constitution. You'll find that in chapter 1, 2, and 3. The reason I refer to that, because it explains clearly the issues that you were raising. Now, the only issue that comes into play then is 44 of the Constitution. If they swear an oath to the group they're in overseas, no matter who it is or where it is, that's an unlawful oath under Section 44 of the Constitution. You should be able to apply to the High Court and have that law or act or statute or whatever they call it overturned and removed because it's repugnant to the Constitution. You see, all the parliaments only continue subject to the Commonwealth Constitution. They are there subordinate to the people. Why? Because the Constitution says they're subordinate. No other reason. They do what we say. Our Constitution is the parameters set by us as how we wish to be governed. Now, Justice Kirby ruled that in a case. He said if you want to bring in agreements made outside, you've got to put it to the people. But I go one step further than that. You cannot just pick up the Constitution and say, I'm going to change that. We'll just put it to the people and the people say, yeah, no. No, it doesn't happen that way. The Constitution is a constraint on the legislative authority of a parliament. That the whole Commonwealth Constitution was made letters patent on the 29th of October 1900. That is the overruling factor in this whole thing. So when you look at what you said, you apply it that way, you'll find out as soon as they come here, they've had it. But the fact they've got an ABN number as the Australian government, and all the states have ABN numbers, they're all registered trading companies under the Commonwealth Australia Corporation, registered in the US Securities Exchange Commission. They are independently and in their own right responsible for every action they take. That isn't a job for the International Court. It's a job for England or an appeal to the High Court if it involves a court case. And the High Court can't do very much at present because it's breached the separation of powers under the 1979 High Court Act. So it's operating outside of the Constitution. It's all in the Constitution, it's clear. So, and that's this Constitution, the Constitution Act. Now, I'll get on to the next query. Mark Aldridge, you came here onto my page and you said, the Parliament of the Commonwealth, you should refer to paragraph 9, I referred to paragraph 8 in relation to voting for the senators. I did that deliberately because people needed to know the whole voting system is invalid. You come on and put in clause 9, says the Parliament of the Commonwealth may make laws prescribing the method of choosing senators, but so that the method shall be uniform for all the states. Subject to any such law, the Parliament of each state may make laws prescribing the method of choosing the senators for that state. The Parliament of a state may make laws for determining the times and places of elections for senators for the state. In compliance with the Constitution, yes, but it's a letters patent. So any such laws would have to go to the monarch to be signed off, otherwise they would breach this a letters patent. If you can't change that or give a reasonable explanation that, Mark Aldridge. And as you said, just saying, so I'm just saying, only I'm just saying the truth. And if you had to watch the video, you would have understood we've never had a lawful federal parliament since Federation. It's never complied with this. Never. The problem we have, Western Australia put this in with 32 sections missing. The Constitution Act 1889 to 1980 carried a big long, and it's got a lot of modifications to it. They claim to oath of affirmation of allegiance, 24, 25, 26, 27, all that repealed. How does a state repeal an act they're not even allowed to look at? It's a letters patent. You can't repeal anything. Wouldn't matter if the governor here signed off on it. You still can't do it. It must go to the reigning monarch, and it didn't happen. Part 11B, Local Government, Section 52. The legislature shall maintain a system of local government bodies elected and constituted in such manner as the legislature may from time to time provide. That was number 88 of 1979, an act of the Western Australian Parliament, dead in the water. This is the Constitution of Western Australia. This was not put in. People need to comprehend the one with 32 sections missing destroyed any chance, until it's rectified, of having a lawful federal parliament. Anyone who says otherwise, like Ann Toomey or anyone else, you want to argue this, you show me where I've got it wrong, that they can put this in instead of the lawful one and still comply with 106. They can't. I'll tell you that now. And can't comply with any of this. So you've got a problem with what you say. Now, I'll reiterate something. I spent a lot of time, and I don't care if people don't like what I'm saying, I'm going to say it anyway, putting together this letter. This letter will give you what you want. You want to get rid of the garbage? This takes it out. We didn't have an election 2 weeks ago. You can say, oh yeah, we all did. No, we didn't. It was proposed by traitors. The same traitors created the Acts Amendment Repeals Court and Legal Practice Act, and under Section 8 of that Act, they removed the Crown throughout all the state acts. Just remove and replace them with the state. They were told at the time by the Shadow Attorney General, doesn't exist in law, but he told them anyway, sitting in the Parliament in 2003 around October, November, and he stated it's going to come back and bite you on the backside. It wasn't the word he used, but that'll do. It sounds a little bit better than what he said. Now, what you're trying to get us to assume, Aldridge, is the fact that you just saying means you know something that I don't. Well, I knew what you said, also knew that Western Australia's constitution wasn't put in lawfully. What effect did that have on the Commonwealth of Australia? The Commonwealth of Australia was created under the will of the people. You can check up. Western Australia went into Federation on time on a declaration from Queen Victoria, which I've stated many times, is on the wall of the Church of England, St George's Terrace, Perth. It's all there. You don't have to be too bright. You want to come over to Western Australia, have a look, or you want to contact them, I'm sure somebody will oblige you with a nice big photo of what it says. If you come over, go to Boulder and go to the old hall in Boulder, that's now a museum. On the wall of there is all the reasons why there was an argument about going in. But it actually, according to the constitutional conventions, involved four main questions. I'm not going into those questions. Read the first 260 pages of the annotated constitution. It explains exactly what happened. That's why it's imperative we retain the Hansard from the people who framed the constitution, so we get clarity of what the constitution means, the reason why it was put together that way, the way it should be interpreted, the laws from other countries which were used, and they were good laws, to clarify verify ours and give us a better constitution. As I said, we have the best constitution in this world. There's only one constitution above that, and it's the King James Bible, or the Bible. And no, King James didn't murder Mary Queen of Scots. That's a nonsense. Look up the age and where they were in the history of England. You'll find out that statement, whoever that clown was pure nonsense. It is pure nonsense. The fact is, if you have this letter, it's on my page. If you want me to put it up again, I'll arrange that. It says, I, Wayne Kenneth, the Family Glue, attended at your polling booth to vote on the 8th of March 2025. There's my wish to vote. What happened there? There were no lawful candidates available for me to vote for at your polling booth. Why weren't there any lawful candidates? They were put there by political parties. If you think they're lawful, show me in the Constitution where it says political parties who aren't in government can select candidates and put them there for us to vote for. And when we do, we've got multiple voting. That's why I referred to paragraph 8 for your information, Mark Aldridge. Just saying, as you did, just saying, because that's what you use, making it sound like you're intellectually not intellectually handicapped, I'll put it that way. Just because I know you've got a brain. Use it, mate. There were no lawful candidates because they weren't selected by the governor. Yeah, try reading and comprehending the facts. Yeah, that's a good idea. I agree with you, Mick. The fact of the matter is, the governors of the states, they run the public service, not the so-called government, because there's no such thing. We do not have a lawful government in Western Australia. We have a company, trading company with an ABN number, calling itself a government, run by a moron named Dodgy Roger, who's, oh, look at that, I'm so famous, and that idiot Albanese comes over here, the guy who hasn't got any inkling of what truth is. Hi Wayne, why should we believe you when you are broadcasting from a caravan and to me broadcast from my own personal library? Well, Ben Clark, if where I live defines my ability of intellectual abilities, then why are you sitting here on my computer broadcasting from your bedroom or your house or office or wherever when I live in a caravan? It isn't just a caravan, it's a fifth wheeler with over $200,000 to purchase, or even more. So you try that one out. So if you, and she's doing it from her own private library, cheers. And you're trying to back up Ann Toomey, yeah? Okay, Ben Clark. Why should we believe you? What you should do is not believe either of us. How do you like that one? If you want, contact me, and we'll send you a copy of this. This is the actual act, or you can go on the internet and track it down. This is the Commonwealth Constitution Act 1900 UK. If you run up all the letters patents for Queen Victoria, you'll find out everything I said is correct. So, not to upset you, Ben Clark, because I'm not. And Nat Pierce, g'day from Coolgardie, lovely place in spring and in autumn. The rest of the time it's either too hot or too cold, but it's still a lovely place. Anyway, getting back to you, Ben, I can see you're asking a reasonable question. I'm broadcasting from a caravan. I live in a fifth wheeler while I'm rebuilding it for the people. It's $200,000 caravan when it was new. It's not just a caravan, it's a semi-caravan built on a semi-trailer. It's an expensive one, but if I live in a shoebox and I teach the truth, who cares? If I sit out under a tree in a paddock and all I got is cows and sheep and idiots around me and speak the truth, it's the truth. The truth brings out justice and correctness. We don't have any in this country. That's why I put this letter together. Nat Pierce, is it Nat? No, Ben Clark. the only question of law is, why don't we have lawful candidates? Why not? That's the one question of law. Can they answer it? No. Not without spilling the fact that Western Australia never put its lawful constitution in place. New South Wales in August 1902 removed its constitution, replaced it, overturning 106 of the constitution. Overturns it. 1922, Queensland removed its upper house, did the same. After that, South Australia and Tasmania removed theirs and replaced them, did the same. 1975, Victoria, after butchering theirs for years, finally did the same. So, in reference to what Anne Toomey says in relation to the Australia Act, didn't need a referendum. Well, the Constitution 51, subsection 38, says with the conferral of the parliaments of all the states concerned, the Commonwealth can exercise authority it had at Federation. Didn't have any. Two reasons we know that. One, the Commonwealth Parliament had not been established, and still hasn't. But go back to what Quick and Garrett says. But they didn't have any. But even if that was not so, there were only 7 legislative areas ever exercisable by the Australasian Council, and even less by the colonies. And all 7 of these are contained in section 51 of the Constitution. Where's the authority over land? Where's the authority to create another system of governance unknown to the Constitution? Where is the authority to create a state? Not the state of Western Australia. We already had that, created under 107, 108 and 109 of the Constitution. Where was the authority to do that? Am I right in asking that? Well, according to page 795, the 4th paragraph, I have. I can ask all of them, including Anne Toomey. Anne Toomey sits there and says, I've got this, I've got that, I've got the AO, good. But I say what she was taught is not the truth. It's a lie. Why is it a lie? Because these are the Constitution I'm talking about. Does it comply with any of them? No, it doesn't. No. So, Mark Aldridge, there is no lawful laws in this country until every state puts their constitution back in place in its original form, as per the letters patent of Queen Victoria, upheld by George V in 1920, upheld by Queen Elizabeth in the Parliament of this country in 2008, where she said, I uphold all of my great-grandmother's letters patents. What does that tell you? It tells you it's the truth. I try to put the truth to you. If you don't like the truth, well, sorry, don't come on my page. If you come on my page and put in constructive questions, you see, Annette Mackenzie Bailey, you put in a constructive question. It's a reasonable thing for somebody to assume, given the thing, but we can't go to the international court. Everybody says we can. I'll tell you now, no, you can't. You can't, because we have to go to England, to the Privy Council, which is now the Court of Chancery in the High Court of England. Apparently there is another committee that deals with constitutional issues in this country, which we are able to go to. I'm still trying to get and find out which people I actually contact. Now, I've actually contacted some, but they had an election and it's changed again. And they've got a hell of an upheaval in their country. I'm trying to keep sanity in this country amid lies and fraud. Fraud, by the way, is a maxim of law. It vitiates everything, wipes it out in Inception. So the so-called election didn't happen. What happened is a massive fraud on the people of Western Australia. If you sit back and take that, then you deserve what you get. Not that that's a good thing for everybody else. But when you go, if they put up a federal election without putting in the state constitutions, it doesn't exist. It's a fraud. Do the same. Say, I am Wayne Kenneth, the Family Glue, or your name, and you attended a polling booth to vote on whatever date they set. They haven't done it yet. There were no lawful candidates. There isn't any. Until they put the state constitutions back and the people in every state vote for one person once in a federal election, I don't care about their acts, they're nonsense. There's no lawful electoral act federal because there's never been a lawful federal parliament. Read what I've said and read it in the Constitution, you'll find out what I've said is correct. You cannot have a lawful election until you have a lawful parliament. And what's the point? Because none of them there represent us. That's where you're correct, ain't it? Absolutely correct. They are registered overseas. They got everything going for them. A lot of them have their own ABN numbers. They're trading companies. They provide services for money. They get paid to do what they're doing. Of course. Read the Fair Work Australia Act. You'll find out almost every so-called government entity, which by the way belongs to us, they stole it. In other words, that's fraud. It still belongs to us. Otherwise, they wouldn't have let Chappelle Corby put a book out that she wrote. They said it proceeds to crime. But politicians can steal everything that we own, including our land, which they have no control over, unless you can find it in Section 51, where they control the issuing of titles and everything else. You can't. It's under imperial law. It's Chalice Real Property 3rd edition, it's called, and it defines fee simple as well. We purchase it in fee simple, doesn't matter what you are trying to put over. If you present land for sale and we purchase it, then you turn around and decide that it's only lease, then you're lying. The Crown does not still own it. It's alienated from the Crown, taken away from, with no exceptions. Understand the termination, the terms depicted in that act. Then you'll understand what I'm talking about. When you buy a block of land, you pay money to get an object. That's that block of land. The only thing you can't do is move it from where it is. You can lay it waste and dig a big hole. They tried to tell you in the Queensland Supreme Court years ago that they could have some control over your land in relation to town planning. No, that's still an act of the Parliament. It doesn't override your rights under the Constitution. If you look at Fijo versus the Northern Territory, the High Court ruled native title doesn't override your rights. So everything that Albanese and everything been doing, and the federal court and all that, giving land to these Aboriginal corporations, it's all fraud. I'm not knocking anything about the Aboriginals. This is not what I'm doing. You need to comprehend you're being lied to. What's the point in getting it and walking around saying, I won this, I won that? If it's true, yeah, but it's not. You are not. Someone put a map out with all the areas by all the different Aboriginal communities. No, that's a nonsense. Somebody sat in a library in South Australia and over a few years put that together. So what? So what? If he sat there in a vegetated state writing down things where there's absolutely no evidence to prove it, there are pyramids in this country, and you know it. Or if you don't know it, go have a look, it's there. Lots of them. Egypt was the first inhabitant of this country known in history. Proper history. When we came here, our distant relatives came here. Did they conquer this country? I don't think they conquered it. I think they just walked in here and took it over. Were there fights between the native people at the time and our ancestors? Yes, but none of that applies to you and me. We weren't here. We've been born since. When you're born in a country, you're native. When you're born and your relatives are all here and you were born here, you're indigenous to this country. The word Aboriginal is a derogatory statement and it should never ever be used. I don't agree it should be there. End of the story. And I'm not getting in arguments. You can come on here and you argue. You know what you're talking about. Well, that's fine. You state that. But who? Ben Clark's a troll, I was told. Look, he can be a troll, but he says, why should we believe you? You don't speak for everybody anyway, Ben. Yeah. Just so people, this is Ben Clark on his post. Not a bad Sheila if you're weird. But anyway, the thing is, I answered your question and I don't wish to denigrate you. Tell Papas no. That'd be right. Look, the thing is, I gotta stop looking at these things my wife gives me. But anyway, I only quote what's in the Constitution, and if you think if I broadcasting from a caravan and to me sitting in an office which we're paying for, suddenly changes the whole truth of what I'm saying, well, you're wrong. I'm going on the Constitution, as Gary Matthews says. Good on you, Gary. It's fine. Mick Arnott, try reading and comprehending the facts. The facts are as I've quoted them, and the only way around their stupid system is to turn up and say, where are the lawful candidates? They're not here. Why not? They then have to prove the candidates are lawful and why they're not here. Why you're not giving them a chance to vote for them. One person once for the Senate and one for the House of Representatives in a state election. The states are created under 107, 108 and 109. Draw their authority referentially from that Constitution. They're subject to the same things. How does that argument hold up in court? Well, have you ever tried it? Your argument that I live in a caravan so I can't teach the Constitution? I'll put it this way, because you want to Ben Clark. I'm going to answer you this way. I went to court in 2019 for a half-day trial in relation to whether the council could remove my property off my land and take possession of my land. I won the case. The half-day trial turned into a 4-day trial. 4 half days. In the end, the magistrate said to the council, I cannot give you the orders you seek to remove his property off his land. He recognised it was my land. He then said, I cannot give you an order in relation to the ownership of the land. I do not have authority. He said it. I won. They'd already sold my property. In other words, they stole it. How did they do it? They created new title. I've still got the original. They created all these documents so that they could sell it. But see, I did the correct thing in law. I went down to the land gate and I paid the required fees, and I got a copy of every document they filed in there, which is evidence against them. I went to the federal police. They said, yes, it is offence. Take it to the state police. Did the state police do anything? No. They said it's civil. How is it civil when they steal 22.5 acres of land, sell it to another clown? I know the guy. It's silly to do what he did. He knows the situation. He took advantage of what they did. He paid little for it, that it was worth a lot more. But I'd already claimed it. And the notices were served on the Shire under Clause 61 of Magna Carta before they even seized it to start off with. Their argument in court was, I owed $148,000 in back rates, costs, court costs and everything else, except for one thing. When they got $300,000 for it, they took the whole lot, including $152,000 of my money, if I was willing to sell it. Can I fight them? No, because they've done everything they can to lock me out of the courts. And that's what they do. So, Ben Clark, you're a fraud. Go and fix up your base page so everybody doesn't see you as a weirdo with that picture you got on there. And come on here and talk sense, because everything you said is nonsense. And, yeah, education is not determined by qualification only. Well, I could add to that, but that would be patting myself on the back, and I'm not going to do that. You see, I've achieved things in inventive steps that nobody else has. And that's not my ruling, it's the ruling of the Patents Office in America, where they split one patent into two because of the inventive steps, because nobody else did what I did or even thought of it, and nobody has ever done that. And I'm not going to say what it is, because all of that's going back to court eventually anyway, because the people who stole everything, and they did, are still claiming that I signed everything over to them and I didn't. But I'm not getting into that. The fact is, Ben Clark, Irene, it makes sense now that you think that education is irrelevant. Thanks. Well, when you talk like you do, and if you've got the education, well, pretty well it is irrelevant. But read your Constitution. The Constitution is your education, because it was put together with people with a lot bigger brains than ours and a lot better. All right? You want to put something sensible on here. Don't ridicule other people on my thing. You want to have your say, but you don't have the guts to put your correct name or a photo of who you are on your post so other people can see who you are. So I'm not going to debate you. You're given enough time on here. The fact of the matter is, if they try to have a federal election, comprehend the fact there are no lawful states until every state puts its original constitution back in its original form and they have lawful state elections prior to a federal one. Anything else is another political party lie. The biggest load of moo-poo ever created to confuse the people of this country into believing they've got some kind of authenticity when they got none. So you have a nice day. If you've got any sensible questions, put them on here. I'll answer you. Believe me, I'll answer them all. I have no problem answering you. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, well, people can say what they like. I just keep exposing the truth because that's what I do. And Clem Black, don't. I prefer you not to call people like that. That's not a good thing. Just put the truth on there. Yeah, the state government and the judiciary went after me for speaking the truth. Yeah, but it failed. They withdrew everything, and their reasoning was because of my age and I'm a litigant in person. I invited them to keep going. They don't want to do it. But they couldn't. There was no actual charge on me. They never actually put it on me. They threatened to. They said they did. But the court could never prove jurisdiction and still can't. If you take the crown out of our law, how do you have a gathering under the sovereign? Isn't that the crown? Or is that the crown of the Queen of Australia or King of Australia? It doesn't exist in law. Because a parliament says something, doesn't mean it's truth. Yeah, I can debate Ann Toomey. If you think that I'm wrong, Ben, get her to come on here and debate me. One-on-one, face-to-face, with it broadcast right across the whole system. I bet she won't do it. Not because she's stupid, because she's paid to keep up the government rhetoric, not the truth. There is a difference. When you understand that, then you'll comprehend. Till then, every election, put in the letter the same. There are no lawful candidates. Put the state constitutions back in place. I want a lawful election. If people then vote for you, not a problem. If you're in the pool of people. But once you've been in there, you're all attainted to treason. You're all traitors and incapable of sitting. Every member of every political party, politicians and members, you're financing them once it's brought to your attention. And not last but not least, if you think you're there to represent the people, get rid of that moratorium and make those pedophiles stand trial. Otherwise, get the heck out of our parliament. Have a nice day. Thank you.